Worlds will live, worlds will die, and the Arrowverse will never be the same. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again. Not talking Watchmen this time. We're going to take a little side detour for a little bit to talk about, just this little event known as Crisis on Infinite Earths. The big CW Arrowverse crossover. Joining me, of course, is my fellow Fandom Zone co-host, Jesse Jackson. And
hello, Charles.
Hello,
How
Jesse.
Are you?
I'm doing great. You ready to talk some Crisis? I'm ready.
I am.
And because, this was a crossover, we couldn't just do it with Jesse and myself. We had to bring in somebody else to do a special Crisis crossover. So joining us all the way from Milan, Italy, once again, well, actually for the very first time here in the Fandom Zone, I stand corrected, DJ Nik. Welcome to the Fandom Zone podcast.
Well, hey guys, thanks so much. Yes, indeed, this is my official baptism, or brisk, if you will, on the Fandom Zone podcast, and I'm so happy. It's like as I've often said to you guys, whenever I get to talk to you both and do this stuff with you, it's like Hanukkah, Christmas, and Kwanzaa all in one. So thank you so much for this early Hanukkah gift. I really appreciate it.
Well, don't worry, Nick. Your genitalia will remain intact.
Thank you.
Wow. And
been through it once.
Yes.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
I'm sure. Yeah, you don't need any more snipped off. I'm presuming.
Nope.
All right. So for those who don't know, here in the Fandom Zone podcast, if you're not familiar, DJ Nik, the host of the wonderful Whiskey and Cigarette Show, where he talks about country music, and also the host of the new Happiness and Darkness podcast, where he talks comic book movies. So he kind of does the movie version of what we do here on the Fandom Zone podcast. And I'm sure, of course, does it far better than yours truly. That goes without saying, right?
So, well, I would tend to disagree, Charles, but I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
So, as you can tell, we've known Nick for a little while now. He's been kind enough to join us on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, and of course, on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
And Set Listing Bruce. He was on Set Listing Bruce.
On Set Listing Bruce.
He's done the Charles and Jesse trifecta.
Right. Well, now it's a quad. Now it's a quadfecta because now he's here on the Fandom Zone podcast. So we just need to figure out how to get him on Ghostwood somehow.
I think my opening theme should be "I've been everywhere," right?
Yeah. Well, hey, that was a great Johnny Cash version, in my opinion. So
absolutely,
I love Johnny's version. So
yes.
All right. See, we even worked a little country music for you.
There we go.
All right. All right. So Crisis on Infinite Earths. So we're going to talk about parts 1, 2, and 3. And so this was the first 3 episodes of the 5-part crossover that aired just this week, because here we are talking on a Thursday, just 2 days after part 3 on The Flash. So part 1 was Supergirl, part 2 was Batwoman, part 3 was The Flash, and I'm dying to get your guys' thoughts on this. Before we get started, though, I'm going to throw a quick question out to both of you. Did either of you happen to reread Crisis on Infinite Earths, the original DC Comics maxi-series by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, before watching the CW crossover?
I did not.
You did not. Nick, how about you?
Indeed, I did. Yes, I binge read it, and I have to say it was one heck of a crazy read. As what I will say, listeners, do not read it all in one sitting, because you will start to lose touch with reality, and things will seem a bit strange. So I did read it, and I loved reading it. And for those who have not read it, please pick it up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I reread issues 1 through 8. I didn't get through. I figured I could probably, I ran out of time, but I figured I'd be okay because parts 4 and 5 are in January. So as long as I read it before then, I'll be good, right? So I definitely wanted. I had a feeling about the Flash episode, so I made sure I read it through 8 for the the death of Barry Allen, the Flash in the comic book series, and apparently I was justified in doing so. So. As we'll talk about. So, guys, early thoughts before we get started, because I want to break this up into, we'll break this down by episode, by part. So we'll talk Supergirl for a little while, we'll talk Batwoman for a little while, and then we'll talk, of course, The Flash. So parts 1, 2, and 3 in that order, understandably enough. Before we get started, though, Jesse, let's start with you. What are your general thoughts about the first 3 episodes?
I don't know if they could have done a better job. I truly don't. I think that I really enjoyed their version of Talking Dead with Kevin Smith,
the Crisis Aftermath special.
I really enjoyed that, and I the Mark Guggenheim, right? Talked about if we came up with 100 ideas and only could do 50 of the cool ones, we still did 50 cool items. And I just think everything about this has been perfect. You don't get a lot of time with every character, but the ones you do, the time you get are really well done. I am so far very, very happy with this.
Good. And Nick, how about you? What are your general reactions on this for what we've seen so far?
I would pretty much echo Jesse's feelings as compared to the previous 2 crossovers, of course, which were not at this level, should we say, of audacity when it comes to doing, such a huge crossover event. I think we could almost equate it to the TV version of Infinity War and Endgame, because that's how big I think the scope was for TV. And by and large, I thought it was incredible. It was amazing how they were able to balance everything so well. Like I said, it was an incredibly audacious endeavor. But to be able to get everything to work properly and for the storyline to make sense. And I think also, I try to also see it somewhat from the perspective of somebody who had no concept of what a comic book crossover is or what a big crossover event is like on this scale. And I think they did a wonderful job also for the neophyte compared to somebody who, like ourselves, is used to a huge event in comics.
Yeah, I'm echoing both of your sentiments, guys. Obviously, as you can tell by the decor behind me, with all my big Crisis hardcovers and Crisis crossover hardcovers, I'm a huge Crisis geek. I've loved this story ever since it came out in 1985, 1986. Obviously, coming off of Marv Wolfman and George Perez's tremendous run on the new Teen Titans, and being a fan of their work, and then reading this phenomenal event for DC's 50th anniversary back in 1985, where for the first time we saw the rebooting of a major comics universe in their chronology. And I know reboots have been commonplace, especially in a lot of recent years. But, back in 85, 86, this was something huge. This was a monumental event. We'd never seen anything like this, especially on this scale where every DC character just about was involved in this crossover, even if it was just a cameo appearance, like on, some of the characters here in this Arrowverse crossover. And so this is something I've always wanted to see on screen, or I thought it would have been great to see it in an animated form, like an animated series or movie, because of the scale of it. But you have to take what you can get. But thankfully we get at least 5 episodes of this crossover, spanning, of course, all the main CW Arrowverse shows, and featuring all the characters that we've known from the beginning, all the way dating back to Stephen Amell, who essentially the Robert Downey Jr. of the Arrowverse, where he founded that modern Renaissance, and so I have to take in consideration. Okay, yes, it's not ideally what I would want, because hey, you've got practical TV limitations, you've got TV budgets, and you've got all these guest stars, and you're already probably pushing things as it is. So yeah, obviously there had to be things that had to be sacrificed. So I try to keep that in perspective, but given their limitations, and given the way their continuity has gone in the Arrowverse so far, I think this is a phenomenal event.
Absolutely.
So far, yes.
All right. So if you haven't heard of me gushing about that enough, all right. So let's get started. Let's get into our first episode. Supergirl, episode 9 of the show's 5th season, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, aired on Sunday, December 8th, 2019. Teleplay by Derek Simon and Jay Farber, a name that Jesse and I are familiar with, dating all the way back to Jay being a member of the original Titan Talk Amateur Press Association that we all belonged to back in the 90s.
Yeah, always and I've always been a little bit, not a little bit, very proud of the work he's done. He's done some great comic work. I've really enjoyed that. The couple times I've emailed him, he's been very nice, at least pretending to remember who I was. And, and I was just thrilled that he's very active on Twitter, and it just seems like he's having a blast. And this was, it was just a great start.
Yeah. And, yes, I realize I'm outing him as a fan fiction writer from back in the 90s, but obviously he's gone into bigger and better things, and I'm pretty sure he's okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How things have turned out, I'm guessing. Directed by Jesse Warren, who's one of the regular directors on Supergirl. And obviously we had some notable guest stars. I mean, in addition to all the main cast, which is, we could be here another half hour just reading that cast. But I did want to mention the guest cast here. So we had Erica Durance as Supergirl's mother, Allura Zor-El, who had been seen before, obviously. Burt Ward returning as Dick Grayson in a very great cameo. Robert Wool comes out of nowhere to reprise Alexander Knox from the 1989 Batman movie, which was immensely cool. A lot of us were hoping for Michael Keaton, but you take what you can get. Yeah. And it was still cool to see Robert Wool. And obviously, with Jesse and I being hosts of Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, not the APA, we were very glad to see a quick cameo of Alan Richardson as Hawk and Kieran Walters as the second Robin.
Yes.
From Earth 9, as we find out Titans is on Earth 9. And we got to see Russell Tovey as the Ray, whom you may remember from the Crisis on Earth X crossover.
Yes.
Not too long ago, a couple years ago. So, yes.
Don't forget, Ace the Bat Hound.
Ace the Bat Hound?
Yes.
Because Dick Grayson was walking him.
Walking Ace the Bat Hound.
Yep. But he wasn't wearing his mask.
No, but that's neither was Dick Grayson. So he's in his civilian the same way that Dick is.
So he wasn't Ace the Bat Hound. He was just Ace.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough?
Okay, Ace, yes.
I know it's semantics. I'm just teasing you.
No,
all right. So before we get talking about this, let's talk really quickly about the cameos in this one. Nick, let's start with you first on this one. Then we'll get to Jesse because I'm sure he's got a few thoughts.
Well,
what was your take on the cameos that we got in this first episode?
Well, I was geeking out like all outdoors when it came to the cameos because for recently, in fact, fun enough, on Happiness and Darkness, we'd actually discussed Batman from '89 with John Takis, who I know is a common friend of ours.
Yes.
And to see Robert Wuhl again, after having recently rewatched Batman, and myself being a huge fan of that film, that was actually the very first film my parents took me to. I was 7 years old at the time when we went to see it. And it was just wonderful to see him. And I did not expect that. And not to mention the Easter egg of him reading the newspaper with the Batman from that movie. And of course, you hear the hint of the score from the film as well, which is one of my favorite theme songs, as together with, of course, the Superman one. So I was just blown away by that. And of course, who doesn't love a cameo by Burt Ward? That was another wonderful, wonderful with the appearance as well. And what I thought was great was they could have just thrown these sort of appearances away and not done so much for them. But even though, should we say, even Burt Ward just had a few minutes on screen, it was so poignant and so strong. I think it was enough to be good fan service, but at the same time, it meant something. And that's what I very much appreciated of how this event is being handled. So I think it was very, very well done. I was just as happy as Larry when I saw these folks that we'd known, in previous incarnations in other shows and other movies.
And Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, word had leaked out that there were going to be a lot of cameos, and I think that was wisely done. I think that is a perfect way to get us excited. But it was still great to see Burt Ward and him, do one of his traditional holy red skies,
yes. Right.
Is just perfect. I made the joke that I did not catch till afterwards that Ace made a cameo. I just said, Burt Ward in real life does a dog food. He has a company that makes a very healthy dog food. And
I didn't know that.
So I was like, oh, look, they had him because of his work with dog foods. They've got a dog. And then afterwards, I read someone, Ace the Bat Hound. I went, duh. The Ray was a nice shot that to their previous crossover, seeing the Titans, just it was.
Did you expect that?
I kind of hoped that we'd get a little Titans.
Right.
I also think it's a little fun to see the Earth number.
Yes.
And do the, and kind of, it's Earth 66 because it was Batman 66.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that there is a little Easter egg in those Earth numbers.
Yes.
Although I'm kind of puzzled by what the Earth 9 is.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. But a lot of them you were able to get, and it just was a really way to set the table. And I also, I don't know if this is a complaint or a compliment, so it's kind of both. It didn't feel like a Supergirl episode. It didn't feel like a Batwoman episode. It didn't feel like a Flash episode. It just felt like this unique thing.
Yes.
Even though I guess you actually were part of that. Like that the showrunners and the writers and the crew, it was for each of them, because when you read a little bit behind the scenes about how welcoming each cast was and all that stuff. So I just think it was awesome. Great start.
Yeah. I mean, because they use a lot of for each episode, they use their writers, their directors in a lot of ways. And it seems like they have a little bit of a emphasis more than the others. Like the Supergirl episode had a little bit more to do with the Supergirl setting, and then the Batwoman episode had the Batwoman setting a little bit, and then, or at least the Batman setting, and then the Flash obviously had more of a Flash setting for as far as screen time goes. But I love the cameos. I love the fact that they weren't intrusive. I love the fact that they do the cameos at the beginning, kind of get things out, like just kind of get you pumped up a little bit, and it kind of heightens things, makes things more exciting, so that then they dive right into the story or back into the story in later episodes. I think it just raises the enthusiasm level. It's almost kind of and yes, it is kind of like it is fan service, but so what? I mean, because why not? I mean, this is a huge event. You're rewarding everybody just like Marvel did with Infinity War and Endgame, where you have all these characters and you're rewarding your audience for staying with you all those years and watching all those movies and spending all that money on their merchandise and whatnot. And so DC's, they get their chance to do that here with the Arrowverse, and so why not have fun with it?
Exactly. I mean, and when I was actually saying, the word fan service, Charles, unfortunately now, the word fan service has now derogatory connotations, but right. I would say it's fan service in the positive sense of the word, as in you're doing it as a almost present to the fans. It's like, here's what you get, for being such, for sticking with us throughout these years. This is our kind of thank you to you as fans.
Yeah, and when you do casting,
right,
that is a nod to the past. In most cases, they're actually good actors to begin with. So why not give this, that chance? That, how cool is it originally when Helen Slater played, Kara's adopted mom?
Right.
Because she's a good actress and you want that connection. So I agree with you.
Smallville did that as well. They referenced a lot of Lois and Clark actors and Supergirl, so it's this kind of tradition. Lois and Clark even had, like Adventures of Superman actors and Superman the movie actors on.
Yes.
So it's a nice tradition. That's been started, and it's a great way for, especially in the case of Burt Ward, to bring everything full circle all the way back to the 1966 Batman TV show.
Well, and we're going to talk about this when we get to episode 2 and episode 3.
Right.
Two different actors have said in interviews they were so happy they got endings.
Right.
And so we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Spoilers,
Well, we're definitely going to talk about that for part 3. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because remember who you're talking to here.
Absolutely. So
we're going to talk about Mr. John Wesley Shipp. Don't you worry.
Oh,
yeah.
Please,
And
yes.
That's happening. I mean, to a little bit, the Paragons are the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
We got to have this, but I think it worked well. I think there was a little bit of mystery. I like the interactions of the team back and forth. It was just really good.
Yeah.
And everyone got a chance to shine. Yeah.
So let's really quickly, let's talk about some of the events that took place in this first episode, the highlights. And after, of course, the cameos, we see this horrible sequence of events where Argo City is being threatened by the antimatter wave.
Yes.
And there's a great echoing of where you have Lois and Clark who have relocated there under that red sun, and so that they could raise their son, Jonathan. And they have to put him in an escape pod, echoing all the way back to Superman's origin, where Jor-El and Lara put Kal-El in that pod. So here's Kal-El after his parents did that to him, sending him to Earth to escape Krypton's destruction. Now he has to do it to his own son. So
that was
Jesse,
so well done.
Yeah, Jesse, what did you think of that? Did you get a little foot clamped watching that?
I did, and I liked it because yes, it's on the nose. Yes, they're hitting you over the head. Hey, look, remember how Kal-El was sent? Now then he's having to do the same thing. And then I love the fact that they told us afterwards that the dialogue was almost directly from Marlon Brando's Superman movie.
Yes.
And that was great. I was really, it was touching, and to see that, I liked it a lot, and I was, it felt right. It felt right that this hero, had a chance
would do the same
yeah,
for his own son that was done
absolutely,
to him.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously Lois and Clark, one, it would obviously sacrifice themselves for Jonathan, because that's who they are. And
yes.
Nick, how about you? What did you make of that sequence?
You know what? I love the fact of this callback to, of course, the Superman origins, being a huge Superman fan myself. My only criticism was I would have expected a few more tears from Elizabeth Tulloch and Tyler Hoechlin in this case, because you're sending away your only son, and they seemed upset about it. But I would have thought they would have been more heartbroken because, this is your own flesh and blood. So I would have expected just a little bit more emotion, a little bit more emoting on their part. But other than that, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth Tulloch because I was a big follower of the TV series Grimm, where she played a huge part in.
I didn't realize she was on that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
one of the main characters.
And she ended up marrying her co-lead in real
yeah.
life. Yeah. So she was amazing in Grimm, and I'm so thrilled that they brought her into this Arrowverse.
See, I learned something today.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. That's cool. All right. I agree, Nick. I think that there should have been a little bit more emotion for that scene, especially, I thought that Tyler Hoechlin should have just had this look of horror on his face when he making that decision, like realizing that. And, I don't know if it's more him or if it was the director, Jesse Warren. But I would have pumped that for a little bit more emotion. But otherwise, I thought it was amazing.
I agree.
Same here. That was my only sort of gripe, because
it's a minor gripe,
but I think it's a fair one. But I think it is. Yeah.
I think it could have been played better, especially after John Wesley Shipp's exit. And how more effective I think that was, more emotionally powerful.
Also because the CW has often done heart-tugging scenes, so you think they would milk this like there was no tomorrow,
right? Yeah, exactly.
That was my only thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, we see Harbinger now. Lila Michaels, who's been on Arrow for quite a while. Yeah. Now she's rocking the Harbinger costume and the powers, and she's gathering all the various heroes for the Monitor, and she brings them to the DEO on Earth 38 because, hey, it's the Supergirl episode, so what better place for a headquarters, right? And you start seeing quantum towers, or as we used to call them back in the day, the giant tuning forks that were sprouting up out of the ground. These little devices of the Monitor. So Nick, what did it mean to you to kind of see those iconic Crisis characters and artifacts coming to life?
Well, when Audrey Mary Anderson said, "I'm Harbinger," I was like, "No way!" I was just like, "Oh my God!" I was just so happy about it, and I was, fist pumping and everything else. It was wonderful. And when we got the towers, it was straight out of the comics. And, having recently read the comic version again, as we mentioned, the fact of seeing those, I think it was anybody who'd read the comics must have just had a field day and just so happy to see that. Because of course,
guy. Yes.
There you go. Exactly. And I know it might be a long shot, but I hope that later down the line, they might hint about the concept of nth metal, because of course we know that's what they're made of. So I hope they do that. I really do, because
maybe they'll save that for the Dark Knight metal crossover. down the road.
They might do, for sure. But other than that, I was just super, super happy about it. And I just couldn't wait to see more of this because I thought to myself, they are on the right track. This is going the way I hoped it would go. And so, yeah, definitely no complaints. And plus, I love Audrey Marie Anderson whenever she's on screen.
And Jesse, Jesse, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same place. I was very happy that we had this, this chance to see this. It appears they're doing everything right. So I was really happy with this.
All right. Yeah. And I feel the same way, just to see the fact that they did the quantum tower or the quantum towers accurately, and they, and they look ginormous, and it just is exactly like you want them to, not just some device cooked up like a little miniature version in Star Lab somewhere. I was very happy about that, and I've been a lot of fans, especially myself. They knew that Lila Michaels was the real name of Harbinger from Crisis in the comics. So, we've been kind of waiting around for years, like, well, is she going to become Harbinger? And here it is. We were at the Crisis crossover, and she's Harbinger. So I'm really glad they went there. It means a lot, and it works because, hey, she's an established character. It's not just somebody they brought out of nowhere. So it's like, it makes perfect sense. All right. So another big moment was when, as the heroes are preparing to defend the tower, Oliver gives his daughter, Mia Smoke, her own Green Arrow suit before talking to Barry. And so we had a kind of a passing of the torch moment with Stephen Amell giving, was it here? Catherine, what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. McNamara.
McNamara.
McNamara. Okay, I'm sorry.
McNamara, I believe it is.
All right. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. McNamara. Thank you, Nick. Giving her own Green Arrow suit because, hey, she's getting her own spinoff, Green Arrow and the Canaries. So perfect timing, right? And I love the fact that, hey, just like Crisis, kind of spawned new heroes during the crossover. Heroes like, the second Wildcat Yolanda Montez, or the female Dr. Light, or others. This Crisis is doing the same thing.
Yes.
So Jesse, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on that passing of the torch moment?
So I really loved, I've enjoyed the future, kind of storyline that they've had all year with the Arrow. Right. And so I love the idea of him giving the suit, and Stephen Amell is playing this very, almost like this world weary person. Like, I know that there's a lot going on here, and so I really liked it. I was very happy with it, and just everything they worked was perfect. Yeah.
Well, you think about all the stuff that he's done in Arrow, and then, the 5 years on Lian Yu and traveling across the world. It wasn't that he wasn't just on Lian Yu, as we found out in Arrow. He's just probably a little burned out by this point, and he's ready to, he wants just to give everything up and get back with Felicity.
Well, what I'm taking is he knows he's supposed to die.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
That's his. He knows he can't change that.
So
he's accepted this.
He's putting things in order before he leaves.
Yes, that's how I looked at him. Is he wearing that? That's the weariness I saw. Is that he's trying to get his affairs in order so that when this happens, because if you remember, they had the great episode where they kept doing Groundhog Day, which I love
Yes.
the idea that is now a shorthand. If you're in any show, you go, we're doing a Groundhog Day. Oh, okay. Now I understand the concept. But with Quint, right? And,
Right.
he couldn't save him.
Yeah.
And which was a great use of him coming back too, for this final season. So I was really happy. I also loved, kind of jumping ahead, the surprise of killing Green Arrow that early. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next, but go. Okay. If you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that has made Crisis stand the test of time versus some of the other books that have used that term is this was consequences that lasted for years. Barry Allen died.
Yes, and was replaced by Wally West, and he became the Flash for the next until 2011. So
Kara Zor-El died. There was no Supergirl. I mean, Brainiac 5, mourned her, and this stuff. There, all of a sudden, the Earth 1 and Earth 2 only existed in one universe. So the Justice Society led to the Justice League. They weren't two different, that happened. And that stayed for years. So I like the idea that they're, hey, we've killed one of our lead characters. We said we were going to do it, and guess what? Doing it right away. So I was very happy with it. Not happy he died.
Were you shocked that they did it so quickly?
A little bit.
All right.
But it was, as they say, it was a good death. Him doing what he had to do. And I thought it was a great death scene where, he's talking to his daughter. So that was just really well done.
Okay. Let's get Nick in on this. So, Nick, what were your thoughts on the passing of the torch and Oliver's death scene?
Well, I feel that Stephen Amell and Catherine McNamara have a great chemistry, and they definitely work that father-daughter relationship super, super well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what will happen to this upcoming Arrow series, where apparently Catherine McNamara will be leading the team, as it were. And when you do get those very sort of intimate talks and you're passing on the torch, you kind of have a feeling that something's going to happen pretty soon. Because if TV or movies have taught me anything, it's that when that moment happens, something's going to go wrong. And at first you're like, oh, he's just saying this because he has to say it, and he's passing on the torch because he feels he has to. But you're like, I have a feeling something's going to go horribly wrong by the end of the episode, and and lo and behold, it did. We talk about a great way of going out with the character. We had talked recently. We'd done the Titans season 2 recap, and we talked about cheap deaths with Donna Troy. Yes. Completely the opposite here, because it came full circle. The character was incredibly well served, though at the same time, I can say maybe with a little bit of pretension that I had a feeling we weren't done with Stephen Amell just yet. But at least as far as him as appearances throughout the crossover. But other than that, I thought it was beautiful. Here's the case of great emoting, because this was tugging at your heartstrings, and you could feel that the two actors were really invested in the moment, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they did this thing. They killed off Oliver so soon, but then in the very next episode, in part 2 in Batwoman, they're already trying to resurrect him. So any sense of loss is quickly written off because they're trying to bring Oliver back already. So it wasn't as emotional, I don't think, as it could have been. But especially, but maybe we're going to get a stronger death scene, maybe in part 5, perhaps.
Could be.
Or if you take into account, they still have 4 episodes of Arrow left before that show signs off. So if they kill him off, how are they going to get through the next 4 episodes? I guess we'll see. But
exactly, and the father children theme obviously is pervasive throughout this crossover, because of course you have this case, and of course you have when he comes in, and we'll of course talk about it, Black Lightning with his family background, and so there is a lot of parental situations going on, and I think that's actually a beautiful theme which carries on throughout the series as well.
Yep, I think so. All right.
Yeah.
Now, really quickly, because we're obviously running on time here. So, does anybody have like one or two favorite lines from the episode that they want to share?
Yeah.
If not, no worries.
Yeah, I kind of have mine all together, and
okay.
So so I've nothing big in the first one. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few, just a couple really quick. I like Sarah Lance to Ray Palmer, where she's saying, after their trivia night loss, well, congratulations, you changed history and lost us trivia night.
That was funny.
I thought that was very funny. Good time travel joke. Mm-hmm. I like Superman with Oliver Queen. This is the Tyler Hoechlin Superman, where he's saying, I'm going after him, referring to Jonathan. And Oliver says, Clark, you can't. And Superman replies, those are two words I'm not used to hearing. And my son needs me.
Yeah, that was well done.
I agree. Good. That was very good. All right. Ratings. Jesse, what's your rating for this one?
So I'm going to give it...
Part 1.
Yeah, Part 1. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 rockets sent from Argo City.
Nice. And Nick, how about you?
I'm on the same page with Jesse. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 red skies.
Nice. You kind of stole mine, but I have a little bit of a variation on that one. So I think we're all in agreement on this one. I give it 9 out of 10. Holy crimson skies of death.
Nice. Well done. Good.
That's for you, Burt Ward. All right.
Absolutely.
That was epic line.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's move on. Part 2. The 9th episode of Batwoman Season 1, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, which aired the following day on December 9th, 2019, written by Don Whitehead and Holly Henderson, directed by Laura Belzi. So we have some writers and directors from the Batwoman TV series. And in this one we have guest appearances once again by Erica Durance, but this time as the Earth 167 Lois Lane, as we know from Smallville. And we had the amazing appearance of Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne from Earth 99. So how cool was it just to hear Kevin Conroy as Batman? Jonathan Scheck reprises Jonah Hex, but this time from Earth 18. Tom Welling, of course, as Clark Kent from Earth 167 and the Smallville Earth, I guess. And we had the voice of Wentworth Miller doing the voice of the Leonard AI, as in, apparently an artificial intelligence based off of his Captain Cold character. And that's from Earth 74, a version where the Legends retired, I guess. So any thoughts from either of you on these guest stars before we get into topics?
Go ahead, Jesse.
After the fact, in an interview, Tom Welling had said, well, okay, you wrote a scene that I can't say no to.
Yes.
And it was perfect. It just truly was. And to have Kevin Conroy, who to many people is the voice of Batman,
the definitive
yeah. To have him be able to play it on screen and to play a kind of
Damaged.
Kingdom Come version.
Yes.
Damaged just gives him a lot of fun to do. It was just really, really great to see. And I felt like they stepped their game up in this second episode, which was hard to do because we were all gushing about how good the first one was.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick, any general thoughts about the cameos
Well, I was a huge fan of Smallville growing up, so I was super happy to see Tom Welling again. And has the guy gotten big? I was like, wow, what happened to you, man? He looks amazing.
I met him in person recently here in Columbus for Wizard World Columbus, and yeah, dude is jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, wow, so I was blown away by that. It was wonderful to see him again, and of course, obviously being a huge fan of Batman the Animated Series and also the Arkham video games, which were also voiced by Kevin Conroy, I was super, super happy to see him. It was interesting the version of Bruce Wayne that they gave him in this particular episode, but it was wonderful to hear his voice. His voice is just beautiful. I envy his voice so much.
Join a club, buddy. Yes, I think we would all love that voice. Just if nothing else, just to how intimidating and authoritative it is. It's fantastic.
I mean, to think that man might order a pizza in that voice. It is incredible.
It was funny when we were, if you watch the Crisis Aftermath specials, where he's, was asked to kind of read lines in the Batman voice, and that was pretty funny. But and it was a very good sport about it.
He was on Kevin Smith's podcast earlier, several years ago, and he told the story that right after 9/11, everyone was wanting to do something, and he went there and someone said, well, what we really need is, like, can you cook? And he's like, hey, I'm an actor, I've turned this on. So he was in the back cooking eggs and doing everything. And so the story as he tells it is, someone's like, who's cooking your breakfast? Who? Batman. Oh, get out of here. And he said, while scrambling eggs, I am night. I am the vengeance. I am Batman. Yeah. And I just think that is so amazing that, here's these first responders tired, and to think that, Batman is cooking their eggs was a great story.
That is
that wonderful voice.
That's amazing.
Yes, indeed. So it was wonderful to see these folks from Small. I have to be honest, I would have been even happier if I'd seen my friend John Schneider there as well. But I suppose
Yeah, that would have. Well, remember he was killed. He was killed off. So
exactly. Yeah. So in fact, I remembered that. So I said, okay.
Why wasn't he? Maybe he should have been on Leanne Yu. Like if you had Oliver going there and you had the Spectre showing up, why not throw in Jonathan Kent while you're at it?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, but obviously it's just me, obviously loving John for what he does and just being the great guy that he is, and just I know how much he loves Smallville and how much it meant to him. So I was like, oh, it's a shame they didn't give you anything to do in this crossover. Yeah. But other than that, I was super, super happy with this for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've talked about that, Nick, that he's my favorite Jonathan Kent.
I was sure to tell him that, by the way, and he appreciated it.
Yeah. He was amazing. He was perfect.
Yeah, he's the Jonathan Kent you want.
And just to throw a little
I'm
more
looking
praise,
at you, Kevin Costner.
I'm throwing a little more, love on Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
I always look at Smallville, and then I look at the Star Wars, officially middle trilogy, but the trilogy that supposedly is going first, the Darth Vader saga. And I never felt as much as I did. I wanted Lex Luthor to be good. I mean, Smallville and his role, the way they played that and they wrote that, you kept wanting to believe. You didn't want him to go down that dark path. Yeah. And so to see Smallville treated with such respect and such love, I'm a little verklempt. I got to tell you, I got a little misty here in the eyes.
But if you notice, they said that Lex becomes president.
Yes, he does.
So he did go down that darkest timeline.
Yes.
That they prophesized or whatever.
Yes.
During
I
the
thought
series.
That was a great line. Yes.
Yep. So yeah. And he's probably getting impeached right now. Just saying. All right. So this episode's notable because this is where they kind of bring in the Legends of Tomorrow into the storyline.
Yes.
we get the introduction of the Paragons concept, so that we find out Supergirl is the Paragon of Hope, and White Canary, Sarah Lance, is the Paragon of Destiny. And apparently there's 2 more in the book. We find out there's like another Clark Kent somewhere who has lost more than any man should, will be the Paragon of Truth, while there's and there's also a Paragon of Courage if you go visit Bruce Wayne on Earth 99. And obviously that turns out to be Batwoman. So we can and let's see. So we have a mention that Felicity Smoke has something called the Tome of the Guardians, and I'm wondering if that's going to come into play later in the series in parts 4 and 5. The Monitor saves Lex Luthor. Speaking of Lex Luthor, and brought him along just to basically cause trouble with the reasoning, he has a part to play. And it's could he have done that, or could you gotten somebody else to play that part maybe? Why do you get Luthor? But okay. I guess, he did choose from heroes and villains in the comics, I guess. All right. So obviously just reeling off the death of Oliver, they come up with a plan. Hey, let's track down a Lazarus pit, only to find out that Thea destroyed them all on Earth 1. So we have to kind of go elsewhere to on other Earths where there's still some Lazarus pits that Thea hasn't gotten to yet, to bring Oliver back. And we have Iris going off on her mission, joining Lois and Clark in finding the Kryptonian, which of course turns out to be Brandon Routh as the Earth 96 Superman, in honor, of course, of his starring in Superman Returns, which came out, of course, in 1996. So what was everybody's reaction to Brandon Routh donning the Superman costume once again? And I know I geeked pretty hard about it. I'm sure Jesse did too. So Jesse, what are your thoughts really quick?
Yeah, I was really happy. I did not have, I think when you pull apart almost any movie, right, and especially DC movies, you can find it lacking. But I remember at the time enjoying that movie and really liking how he played Superman and Clark. And he was right there. He was very different than Ray.
Yeah,
and which you should be. He is a good actor.
That's a skill. That's his skill as an actor, that he's able to make those characters distinctive.
Yeah, and I loved seeing the two Supermen interact, and nice glasses, and kind of feeling back and forth, and him, despite all the losses, the idea, and he's still optimistic, and I think that's one of the things Tyler brings to the role too, is he appears he's having fun.
Yes.
He's Superman, and yes, he takes his responsibility seriously, but when he's guest starred on Supergirl, he's having fun. And so I like that, and it was a great fight scene. I just loved everything about that.
That was great. Yeah, I know. I love the fact that, like you said, he was optimistic, and I was glad that he obviously didn't go down, Earth 96 Superman didn't go down the road of Earth 99 Batman. So I like that a lot. Nick, what about you? What did you make of Brandon Routh returning as Superman?
Well, I have to say, I cannot wait for somebody to choose Superman Returns on Happiness and Darkness to discuss it, because I really want to go back and watch it. I was so tempted to do it before watching this, but I said to myself, I'm going to put it on hold till somebody chooses it so I can watch it again, because I do have very fond memories of that movie, and definitely props to Brandon Routh for doing such a great job of distinguishing himself between Ray Palmer and this Superman. And I think interaction, as Jesse was saying, between the two Supermen was wonderful. I thought, as a fan of Doctor Who, it made me smile because it made me think of the crossover event, the Day of the Doctor, when you have the 10th and 11th Doctor looking at their glasses going, and stuff. And so I kind of had... And so I had that in my head. That was, and I'm sure you guys did too. So I thought that was brilliant. And all in all, I just love Brandon Routh, through and through, from both on Legends and in Superman Returns. So it was just splendid stuff. And I'm so glad that they gave him this role and they homaged the fact that he had played the Man of Steel previously.
I've always felt that Brandon Routh is a very underrated Superman.
I agree.
Yeah.
Just because Superman Returns wasn't as good as we would have liked, I think Brandon Routh should be held in higher regard because I thought he did a phenomenal job in that movie. Especially, echoing Christopher Reeve without trying to do an imitation per se.
Yes.
So I like that a lot. The other big thing, obviously, in this is where Kate and Kara go to Earth 99 and they encounter Bruce Wayne, only it's not the Bruce Wayne we were hoping for. And it's like Jesse said, it's kind of like the Kingdom Come version where he's wearing the exoskeleton suit from Kingdom Come, but it's not the Kingdom Come personality per se. It's more, this we find out that this is a Bruce that has gone over the edge, has taken up killing, and had to be stopped by Superman. They have a big throwdown where that Earth's Batman killed Superman, but in the process became horribly crippled in the process. So Nick, let's start with you because I know you're a huge Batman geek. What is your reaction to Kevin Conroy playing this particular Batman?
It was I thought it was very interesting that they gave him this kind of Batman to play, because obviously in Batman the Animated Series and of course in the video games, he is very much your straight classic Batman. And to give him, should we say, this soured, almost tired version of the character, very similar, should we say, to a certain extent to The Dark Knight Returns. That's what I had in mind, especially when we found out that he killed Superman, and I kind of had The Dark Knight Returns in my mind when I saw that. But it was a huge shocker at the same time. And I say, once again, kudos to the writers for giving us this, because you think to yourself, okay, this is a guy who's pretty much crippled. What function will he play within the grand scheme of things? Is he going to be the calculating mind? Because we know, of course, that Batman is a level A genius. So he could have played possibly that role on the team. But when you find out that he's, not exactly your friendly neighborhood Batman, as it were, he's kind of totally the opposite. I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked at that. But I think Kevin Conroy did a wonderful, wonderful job. And being used to just hearing his voice, but actually see him physically acting, I was just so, so happy, and I absolutely loved it. And I think Ruby Rose, who I was on the fence about at first on the Batwoman series, has really grown into the role. Yes. And she did a wonderful job in her banter with Kevin Conroy. So congratulations to both Ruby and to Kevin for sure in the scenes they had together.
Yeah, that was with Batwoman, it almost felt like that was a turning point for her, where she's able to see the road that she could go down, and maybe has to kind of reevaluate things a little bit. So we'll see where that leads her. And so, Jesse, what are your thoughts about Batwoman and Supergirl meeting this particular Batman?
Well, what I loved is they didn't. They went all in. Mm-hmm. You didn't have a redemption arc with this version of Bruce Wayne. He was he thought he did the right thing. He was convinced, even in his death. And I like that. I like that a lot. That because this Earth,
right,
this place has been so damaged. So I loved that, the way they did that and showed that. And we've already talked about it. It was so great to see, him he's got a suit underneath the exoskeleton.
Right.
And someone showed a picture of in Kingdom Come, Bruce wore a suit underneath the skeleton. And
right.
It was just really nice done. Seeing the Fox guy,
Lucius Fox.
Yeah, Lucius Fox, kind of trying to have to protect them.
It's Luke Fox. I'm sorry. It's
Luke. Yes.
Because Luke is Lucius's son.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that Supergirl and Batwoman,
right,
Kate and Kara are bonding. And I that's a really, really nice extra thing that we hope we can see in the future. I like that their version of the world's finest for us old-time comic geeks.
Yeah, that was that was something that was kind of introduced in Elseworlds a little bit, that world,
right?
Because where they shake hands, and then Guggenheim on the Crisis Aftermath special talked about how there would be a relationship to kind of replace the Stephen Amell, Grant Gustin, Oliver Queen, Barry Allen relationship.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And obviously, I think this is it. I think this will, especially once, if what I think happens and everybody ends up on the same Earth by the time of Part 5, and going forward, that they'll be able to see each other and interact more often.
Mm-hmm.
And so because essentially that's kind of like the CW's version of the Superman-Batman relationship, the world's finest relationship, and only this time, obviously, with a feminine twist. And I'm okay with it. I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so there's some other things. I know we need to get moving. Just really quickly, I'm going to hit the highlights. Like we had Constantine showing up again, so I was very happy about that, being Constantine guy.
Me too.
Did a Constantine podcast back in the day, so of course I'm going to be geeked about that. Heatwave babysitting Jonathan was awesome. I love that.
Yeah, with him reading the book, and I love that continuing subplot that he's actually a
romance
good
writer.
Yeah, he is a good romance writer, and people love him.
Yeah.
That
even this alternate Earth version does that. Yeah, I think it was pretty funny. And then
go ahead.
And of course the big cliffhanger where we get to see at long last a live action version of the Anti-Monitor.
Yes.
So any quick thoughts about that before we get into quotes?
I was very happy with the way they did it, because I think if they took it directly from the comics, it might have seemed cheesy. It works on the printed page, but it might not have worked in live action. So I was very happy that they did it the way they did.
Yep. And Jesse, anything else from you about that?
No, I just it was great to see, and once again they're rolling along, telling some great stories. Yeah.
All right, Jesse, any quotes about this episode?
A couple.
Okay, go for it.
So the quick one, when Ray Palmer goes, "Love your suit. If you want, I could probably give it an upgrade." And Kate, depends on how attached you are to your hand. And Ray Palmer's pretty attached.
That was good.
And I would quote, if I could,
the
whole Clark Kent, Lex Luthor, Lois Lane, that Smallville scene is almost perfect. But I just did the end where Erica Durance, which is one of my favorite Lois Lanes, she is just amazing.
Yes, she is.
Hey, was somebody here, or were you talking to the cows again? And Clark, that was Lex Luthor from another Earth. Apparently the multiverse is ending. And Lois, Smallville, you made it funny. It's taking you about a decade, but you're getting the hang of it. And Clark, what'd the girls make? A mess. They can't wait for you to see it. Oh, that sounds like a job for us.
Yeah.
And I'm
beautiful.
I got little tears here.
You got a little tears.
It is giving us, because
we find out they had 2 girls. How great is that?
Yeah. And
very cool.
He never wanted to be Superman. The Blur. He always wanted this, and you could see that. He had a good life, but he chose to go with the woman he loved and to raise kids on his family farm, and that's just perfect.
I'm still a little suspicious about whether we'll see him suit up in part 5.
I'm hoping so.
I'm hoping so.
Okay.
I'm hoping because with everybody blinking out of existence, I'm hoping that even they gave Clark this ending, but I'm hoping we get a little bit more. I'm hoping that'll be a special surprise. Fingers crossed.
Okay, all right.
I have no knowledge at all. I'm just fingers crossing on this one. All right, my favorite quotes, really quickly. Harbinger, where she's saying, "Come with me, Mick Rory, and I promise you'll have plenty of beer to drink and stories to tell. The multiverse needs saving, and its heroes need a ship." And Heatwave replies, "You had me at beer."
Yes, I love that quote. Yes.
Kate Kane and Bruce Wayne, where she says to Bruce, "Well, I'm not her." And Bruce says, I'm not an old man held together with wire and metal." And Kate replies, "Fine, you're a broken, pissed old hermit waiting to die in this 11-bedroom, 7-bath coffin. But apparently you're needed. I am giving you the chance to be a hero again, and not just to Gotham, the whole damn universe." I thought that was great. And then, of course, Kate's line, "Lex Luthor, kind of a dick, huh?"
Yes.
I enjoyed that quite a bit. Nick, any quotes you liked?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. So what's everybody's?
I do have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
When Lois is trying to convince Clark, that after he's been taken over, and I'm just going to give the thing, they would want. She talks about Perry and Jimmy Olsen, and she goes, "They would want your memories of them to lift you up, not drive you to darkness. That's the truth, Clark, and the truth means everything to you. Remember who you are." And I went, yes, that's Superman, and that's Lois Lane being to a different Clark Kent, a different Superman, what she is. I thought that was a really, really great scene.
All right. So, Nick, let's start with you. What's your rating for this one?
I'm going to give this also 9 out of 10 unsmoked cigarettes.
Okay. Oh, nice. Because of Constantine. Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Nice.
That was a great line about the smoke break. No, it's part of the thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to sentimentally, I have to go 10 out of 10.
Really?
Wood chopping scenes.
Okay.
Yeah. I just thought this was as close to perfect as you can be.
All right. Well, apparently I'm the odd man out on this one because this is actually my least favorite of the 3 episodes.
Wow.
Wow.
So I'm giving it an 8.5 Paragon Detectors.
Okay.
Because I was a little disappointed that we got Kevin Conroy, but we didn't get him as a more traditional Batman. Feels like kind of a waste to me. I mean, it was great. It was great to see him, but it was a little disappointing, and it was also disappointing that we didn't get, at least at this point in the game, so I may have to revise my rating later on, that we didn't get to see Tom Welling in the suit.
Okay, fair enough.
So
I would have been actually disappointed if we had gotten a traditional Batman. I thought this was a nice twist to give us, though. So
I mean,
well
it could have
said.
been,
All right.
I was expecting more of like the older Batman Beyond Bruce Wayne,
Right?
Kind of like that Kevin Conroy voiced in Batman Beyond, the animated series.
Yeah.
So I would have been happy with something like that, but instead we got this, the broken down, murdering Bruce Wayne. So a little bit of a disappointment for me, and that's just my opinion. I get it. I respect everybody else's views.
Absolutely, and I do too. You too.
All right. So moving on, part 3, the 9th episode of The Flash's 6th season. Hard to believe that The Flash is on 6 seasons already. Crisis on Infinite Earths, part 3. Aired the following day, of course, on December 10th, 2019. Teleplay by Lauren Serto and Sterling Gates, who is a great writer on Supergirl, who's been phenomenal on The Flash. He's written some of the greater, funnier episodes. He's done a lot with Elongated Man. And he's one of The Flash's better writers at the moment. Directed by David McWhirter. And obviously big guest stars. John Wesley Shipp as the Earth 90 Flash, whom we last saw in the Elseworlds crossover. And I was very glad that that wasn't the last time we got to see him in the suit, because why are you going to make a suit like that and only have him in a couple of scenes?
Absolutely.
So
exactly.
So thankfully you got him back. And I was very happy that Cress Williams got brought in as Black Lightning. And if you notice, if you watch the Black Lightning episode, it's almost like, like one of those Crisis crossovers from back in the original 80s. Where
exactly, it was like a tie-in.
It was like a tie-in issue. It wasn't directly part of the story,
but it was.
But
yes.
it related a lot to it, and so I really, if you didn't watch the Black Lightning episode, I really recommend going back and doing that.
Definitely,
absolutely.
So I want to just point that out. One of the cool cameos I really enjoyed, in addition, obviously, to John Wesley Shipp, Ashley Scott back as the Huntress on Earth 203, a nod to 2003, the year that Birds of Prey was on the air, which only lasted for 13 episodes. And we also got the voice of Dina Meyer as the voice of Oracle. So how cool was that?
Very.
And we got to see Stephen Lobo as Jim Corrigan, the Spectre, although not quite the Spectre here. Got a nice little flashback to Amanda Pays as Tina McGee, as we got to see some footage from the original Flash TV show from back in the 90s. So it was very cool to see that old clip again. And of course, one of the biggest and best cameos so far, Tom Ellis as Lucifer Morningstar. Straight from the Lucifer series. This is someone that if they had not brought him in, you would have understood him not being there. But how cool was it that they brought in Lucifer? And of course, he's on Earth 666.
And
of course.
And if you afterwards on Twitter, there's this whole thing where they're talking about they wanted to keep it a secret. He lied about being over there up in Canada for a friend's birthday party.
Yeah.
Damn
you, internet! You're too good at deducing this stuff.
It was really, really cool to see him. The banter back and forth. It made me smile. And you wonder. There's whoever the creative people are making decisions out of love of the fans and stories, not their pocketbooks. Because, and I guess maybe because Warner Brothers is the big umbrella, but these are all different networks and working this out, and they're just like,
the logistics of this had to be really difficult.
Yeah,
it
was
because it was a Fox show that ended up on Netflix.
Yes,
but it was a Warner Brothers production, so I'm sure that helped. And of course, Lucifer is owned by DC Comics, so that helps.
Yeah,
but they get so, for whatever reason, Warner Brothers gets way too possessive, especially involving Batman, about their characters. And so I'm hoping, it's events like these that I'm hoping kind of make cracks in that wall that keeps these things from sharing back and forth freely, like Marvel does.
Yeah, and so several years. Well, this last, I'm going to do name dropping now. I apologize.
Yeah.
This last Labor Day, I met Chris Williams at Dragon Con, and very wonderful guy. We had a great discussion.
He seems like he would be a nice guy.
Yeah, really. And then 2 or 3 years ago, all three leads from the Birds of Prey were at Dragon Con, and I was able to talk to all of them. Tom did a sketch of them as civilians playing with action figures of each of their characters, and all of them said, we were just too soon.
Yeah.
If this show had been
like 10 years later,
we would still be doing that show. And I agree.
Well, to be fair, the actress that played Dinah on Birds of Prey, she's still doing it because she's playing Alice on Batwoman right now. So.
No.
Rachel Scarce. Yes.
Yes. But I was so happy to hear Dinah's voice. I was able to see Ashley Scott. It was just so cool. I loved that show. It wasn't perfect, but it
had potential.
It had so much potential and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nick, what about you? What are your thoughts on the cameos this time?
Well, you know what? Because I remember Jesse sharing this story on Titan Talk before the three of us, actually became friends and started, doing this stuff together. And I was listening to you guys. I remember on one particular episode, Jesse shared this anecdote on the podcast. And when I saw, the cameo, I thought to myself, I have a feeling somewhere down in Texas, Mr. Jesse Jackson is smiling to himself. so
ding, ding, ding. Got it.
Exactly. So you are on my mind there, Jesse, when that happens. And I was awesome. Actually, personally super happy for you, because I remember when you shared it and just the way you expressed that, how much you love that show and how much that moment of meeting these celebrities meant to you. So I was personally very happy for you when I saw that. So I'm glad that they did that, I said, that's from my man, Jesse, you know what I'm saying? So I was very happy about that. Oh, you're welcome. And outside of that, I just absolutely love this. And as you were saying, Charles.
Yes.
I think, the concept of tie-ins, even when it came to reading comics, I was the kid that would read all the tie-ins as well. And I think that the Black Lightning episode is essential.
I'm right here with you. They're all here. Yes.
To appreciate the third episode, because there's so much backstory there. You actually see the red skies in Freeland as well, and then Black Lightning disappearing and such. I mean, I've been a huge fan of the Black Lightning series, so I was super happy that they actually involved it. And Lucifer, I was like, what is going on here? They actually brought Lucifer in. And the banter between Matt Ryan and Lucifer was just incredible. And I absolutely loved it from start to finish. It was just amazing, amazing stuff.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm a huge Vertigo guy. So even though Vertigo, the DC closed the doors on Vertigo this year, it was how great was it to see two Vertigo characters interacting on live action TV for the very first time. From different, comics or whatever, because, you had John Constantine meeting Lucifer Morningstar, and I have to wonder if Neil Gaiman was watching that, because just, he's written for both characters, and it was so great, and they're so natural because, John being the Hellblazer, and Lucifer, obviously being from Hell, the devil, so it makes perfect sense to have these two interact. And it was nice that we got an acknowledgement that, well, apparently Constantine owed him a debt, Lucifer owed Constantine a debt because of something involving Mazikeen, and I love Lucifer kind of jibing Constantine about his name, because there's some a lot of British people that feel that, well, John Constantine needs to be called John Constantine. So so that was a nice little in-joke for fans. I
was actually going to mention that, Charles, because apparently when he wrote it, Alan Moore went on record saying it was pronounced Constantine. So I'm feeling it might have been a hint to Alan Moore.
Maybe it could have been, it could have been, but it's obviously been, it was established on the NBC series, obviously they went with Constantine, so that's kind of.
I always said Constantine myself.
I did too. So so I was okay with it, but obviously I think a lot of people feel differently. So I think that's maybe a little shout out to fans who kind of took issue with the way it's pronounced. But
exactly. I think absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, hey, we also got the Spectre thrown in, so we actually kind of got 3 supernatural characters in this one. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And we know how much of a big role the Spectre plays in the comics of the Infinite Crisis.
And I wonder, how Jordan ended up being a version of the Spectre. I wonder if that's what they're going to do with Oliver.
I was just going to mention that. You're right ahead of me, Jesse, as always.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I think because they obviously they had Jim Corrigan talk to Oliver, who has been brought back using this ritual, and they go to Lian Yu to bring his soul back or whatever, and they talk about that. So it'd be kind of a way, and if you think about it, now that you mention it, it kind of sets Stephen Amell up to be one of the big players. Because if he's the Spectre, he's the one that's going to be duking it out with the Anti-Monitor if they follow the Crisis comics. Right?
I think so, yeah.
And this also allows him to have a place in the Arrowverse if they keep that. Like if he decides to come back as the Spectre, you could have that. So yeah, I that's what I don't think I'm a great detective for thinking. I think that's the message they wanted us to know about.
But I think you're on the right track, though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If they do give us a Spectre TV series, I'm all for it because I love the character. And if they give us Stephen Amell as the Spectre, not having Green Lantern, as that will be on HBO apparently when it comes out, I'm all for a Spectre TV series.
Yeah, that was one of the disappointments of Constantine being canceled so soon by NBC, because they had introduced Jim Corrigan and they teased him becoming the Spectre,
right?
Which I think we would have seen had the series gone on a little longer. So that was kind of a little letdown. But Spectre's one of those characters. He was co-created by Jerry Siegel, who the co-creator of Superman. So so he's a very legendary character.
Absolutely.
And I'm always happy to see him when he gets his due. Yeah, definitely. All right. This was the big thing. We got to talk about this. Got to make time for this. John Wesley Shipp.
Wow.
Yes. So Nick knows how I'm feeling about this. So yeah.
Yes, sir.
So after, Black Lightning gets brought in, and he's horrified to find out that his family has been wiped out by the antimatter wave and that he's the sole survivor. He still steps up, and that was very cool to see that the Black Lightning, and what they're doing, he's there to take out the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon. And as Flash fans know, antimatter cannons are not good for Flashes.
No.
And and this episode is certainly proof of that. Black Lightning does his best to take it out, but obviously needs a little bit more to stop the threat. And this is the moment where Grant Gustin's Flash, the Earth One Flash, thinks that, okay, well, this might be his time to disappear during the crisis. And in this very powerful sequence, the Grant's ready to sacrifice himself, only to have John Wesley Shipp's Earth 90 Flash temporarily steal his speed and take his place, stating that the Anti-Monitor may have said that a Flash dies in crisis, but he didn't say which one.
Exactly.
And that I did not. I'm sure you have the exact quote, but the idea.
I don't have that exact quote, but I have a different quote though.
Yeah, your superpower is making the others around you better.
Yes.
And I think, obviously, Arrow may be the father. Stephen Amell may be the father of the the Arrowverse as we call it, but I think Grant as Barry is the heart.
Yes.
And so
I agree
to
with that.
see this is and to have this John Wesley Shipp who's played Barry's father, he's done other cameos, but to give him
Jay Garrick,
his character such an ending, and to go back and take that clip from the original TV show, if you were worried about not enough tears when Clark and Lois are flying out, sending their child off.
Right.
Trust me, there were tears in this part of for the cast, I think, and all the people to see. And it just was a hero's death, and what a great way to use him. Just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, this was an exit. I know I want to get to Nick here in a minute,
Yeah.
but I had this was something that I had considered a possibility going in.
Yeah.
That I knew that the moment we got confirmation that John Wesley Shipp was going to be appearing in Crisis, we're like, well, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to have him be the one who sacrifices his life, and that way, obviously, that Grant Gustin's Flash can continue as the Flash. So and in the back of my mind, I was thinking this would happen, and then I'm watching this scene, and this scene, this moment of Barry Allen sacrificing himself to stop that antimatter cannon is something that I've thought about hard since the reading that Crisis on Infinite Earths number 8, where Barry Allen dies in that comic, and that scene has stuck with me. And here I am all these years later, and I'm finally able to see that.
Yes.
In live action. And it was just so overwhelming for me to see it done justice.
Wonderfully.
John Wesley Shipp's 1990s Flash is obviously, I was a huge fan of that show, as Nick was.
Yes, indeed.
And so to see that moment, and to see John Wesley Shipp given that chance to sacrifice himself and to go out in such a huge way, saving lives, diverting that antimatter wave.
This is what I've been running through all these years. It's time for Flash to vanish in Crisis. I'm like, oh, it was great.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And, and the fact that, that there was a kind of passing of the torch moment between the two. You felt that connection because we had seen that bond with John Wesley Shipp with Grant Gustin playing other characters, and it really came through. And I was blown away, simply.
Absolutely.
Nick, what about you? I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Well, first off, can we talk about...
You must be like, Charles, shut up. I want to talk about this.
Never. As I said, you are just a wonderful orator. I tell you, you could definitely give speeches like there's no tomorrow. Seriously. But that said, I also wanted to add, let's talk about the fact that when he's doing it and he disappears and we get that straight from the comics moment, but the Danny Elfman theme that then plays from this TV series, I was like, oh my Lord! It was just incredible.
There better be a soundtrack to this event.
And you mentioned this in a couple of minutes ago.
Blake Neely, the composer, you better be making a soundtrack right now because I want this now.
They weaved all these iconic musical themes in all 3 episodes at the appropriate times. Whether it's Danny Elfman, the Batman theme, the John Williams. Superman, the
Robert Wool scene.
Yeah. It was all there, and it was just so beautiful.
And it's much more powerful when you get to hear that, that hero's theme.
Yeah,
they're using that theme, to give them their moment. And obviously, when you in this very powerful moment to get that theme, it just raised that intensity. Even higher.
Totally agree.
Even higher. Nick, any more thoughts about this?
Oh, yes. Well, what I was going to also add is that people have a lot of traditions over the holidays. One of my traditions over the holidays is watching the Flash 90s TV series.
Oh, nice.
Over the holidays, that's what I do because it's a show that meant so much to me growing up. It was one of the very few shows that myself and my sister would watch together religiously as kids, and that we wouldn't fight over the remote for over the Flash. And it just meant so much to both of us. So to be able, and that's what I do. And it coinciding with my tradition of watching the Flash TV series, seeing, John Wesley Shipp come back and do this. And then that throwback to the talk between him and Tina McGee was just like, I was in such a happy place, and it's just, it was remarkable. And I love the fact they gave that Flash's incarnation a full circle story. And I thought it was beautiful that they did that, because the 90s Flash TV series was sadly cut short. And I feel this was some way of saying...
Kind of like Birds of Prey was cut short before its time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was their way of saying, you know, we recognize this and we want to give you a full story and let you run the whole race, as it were.
Yeah.
So I absolutely adored that. And, you know, just like with Stephen Amell passing the torch on to his daughter, I love this father-son relationship between the two Barrys and this passing of the torch. And then when you get to see the Flash symbol on the ground, as it were, it was such a powerful scene. It would look great, you know, even as like wallpaper on my TV, on my computer screen. I definitely want to see if I can find that and put it up there, because it was just gorgeous.
Yeah, you hit the print screen.
Yeah,
exactly. And I agree with you on the soundtrack, Charles. If somebody does this like on Spotify or something, I am all over that soundtrack.
Blake Neely, because Blake Neely does this recent releases soundtracks for the various shows. So I'm really hoping that, and he did one for Crisis on Earth X. So I'm hoping that they do Crisis on Infinite Earths. They need to.
And
exactly.
You know, we haven't talked about it, but I thought Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, held his own. I thought he really was enough. Like, Superman's real? Ooh, dude. And, you know, and then I thought the iconic, you know, his mantra, where's the future? Right here. Whose life is this? Mine.
I thought
what are we going to do with it? Yeah. Live it by any means necessary. And he kept by any means necessary. Yeah, to focus. I thought that was really well done, because the idea that
gave him his character moment.
Yeah, because, you know, he's lost his family, he's lost his world, and once again he's putting it behind him and doing a hero bet. So I thought that was really well done. I'm so glad that Black Lightning was included in this, and that they got the little, you know, spin-off, like they showed the little tie-in. Right. It was perfect.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Any other quick thoughts about parts 1, 2, and 3?
No.
I was just going to ask one question to you, to both of you guys. What were your thoughts on when it came to the concept that we might be getting the third incarnation of the Atom with Ryan Choi?
I'm all for it.
I remembered that from the comics.
Ryan. I like Ryan.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and I thought this was a guy, you know, he was really good playing Kevin in Supernatural. So I think this would be kind of nice. I'm really good.
I thought it was nice that they did a little Easter egg by naming his daughter Simone in honor of Gail Simone, the writer who co-created Ryan Choi. So I thought that was nice.
Mm-hmm. And we can always do with an extra Atom, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be, if I remember reading correctly, Brandon Routh is ending as Ray Palmer on Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes.
So maybe this would be another passing of the torch at some point.
So we're getting another Atom and Ryan Choi. Yeah.
So might want to keep an eye on Ray Palmer during Crisis when it comes back in January.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just that potential is there. They're setting the table, it seems. Mm-hmm. Because for him to take over. All right. So do you have any favorite quotes, Jesse?
I do. I only have the one, but I loved they've actually done a couple of inside jokes, like in the second episode, I think, where White Canary says, "I promised my team they'd never have to do another crossover," but on this one, Ralph Digby goes, "Holy All-Star Squadron! Hi, how are you? Ralph Digby, long man, ready to help kick butt." And Killer Frost, "Ignore him. It's his first crossover."
I love that moment.
That
was one of my quotes. I love that moment.
It was his act. This is the actor's first crossover.
Yes,
and he has been perfect as Long Man.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Nick, any quotes?
I don't have any quotes, but what I will say is I just hope that the big wigs at Warner take notice of how things are done when you do a good crossover and you bring characters together, and hopefully we get something better compared to Justice League that we got in, should we say, in the cinematic world. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
said.
And if you want more on that topic, Nick and I talked about that on Happiness and Darkness. So,
absolutely.
Free plug there. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I got a couple more quotes in addition to that great elongated man, Killer Frost quote. Marno Vu, the Monitor, after Earth 37 gets eradicated, he says, "Another Earth is gone." And Lois Lane replies, "There's only 7 left in the multiverse. It's ironic. I'm watching the biggest event in history, the destruction of every Earth, and no one will ever read the story."
Yeah,
so
I
thought that was a rather poignant quote. And of course, I've got to end it with the Earth 90 Flash talking to Barry Allen just right before he dies. "Keep riding the lightning, son. I know you'll make us all proud."
Nice.
Tear.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep,
yes.
wear the tissues.
Like, it still gets me.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so Nick, what's your rating?
Well, I think once again, this is straight and another 9 out of 10 because it was just. I think the 9 out of 10, especially for the John Wesley Shipp Grant Gustin moment, for sure. Not to mention, of course, seeing Cress Williams, who I've loved as Black Lightning and I loved on Prison Break as well. So I'm definitely going to give this 9 out of 10, no doubt, for sure.
All right. Good. And Jesse, how about you?
So once again, I'm the easy one. I'm giving another 10 out of 10. I just love this one. And I just, and I'm giving it, I'm not going to give it what I think you're going to give it. So I'm going to say 10 out of 10 fading player cards.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
Interesting choice. Yeah, it's no surprise what I'm going to give this one, is it?
Drum roll.
I love this episode. 10 out of 10. Charred Flash emblems.
That was my first choice, and I said, "There's no way I'm taking that from Charles."
That was like Nick said, it was such a great shot.
Oh, iconic,
and powerful statement. And John Wesley Shipp, I salute you because you were awesome in this episode. And
Absolutely.
I salute the staff for making this moment happen. So
absolutely,
and giving it its proper due. So
absolutely.
All right.
Charles, if you find that still, because I know that you're wonderful when you come to your backgrounds on Facebook, I am so stealing that from you, man.
Okay, good.
I'll find it if you want me to. You can steal it if you want. You can steal it if you want, but it's out there. I know that. All right. Let's see. I actually do have a really quick fan mail. It's believe it or not, Jesse, we actually finally got some fan mail. So
nice.
All right, some readers checking in at Phantom Zone Cast on the Gmail. David K. Proctor, who writes to us on Next Stop Everywhere quite often, is writing in about Watchmen. So I thought I'd share that really quickly. He said it's very short. He says, "I'm playing catch up on the series, and I'm several episodes behind you. I didn't read the comic book back in the day, and I did see the movie, and I guess I didn't get it. I do love comic books. Mostly I'm a Marvel man. You are helping me understand what's going on in the show, which I am addicted to already. I will put the Watchmen comics in my next up pile in my library.
Nice.
Thanks for turning me on to the show and podcast from your other podcast, Next Stop Everywhere. Enjoying hearing your voices. Thanks, David K. Proctor."
Oh, thank you, David. That is great.
So if we got David K. Proctor reading Watchmen for the very first time, that's awesome, right?
That is awesome.
Big.
That's
stuff.
That's awesome.
That's high praise indeed. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the TV show helped a little, right?
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Just a tad.
But if us talking about it and getting David involved because of knowing us from Next Stop Everywhere, if that got him reading, checking out Alan Moore's Watchmen, if that helped at least a little bit, I think that's great. So I just wanted to share that.
Good.
All right. So
congrats, guys.
So thanks for listening, David. I hope you're listening to our Crisis crossover special here.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. obviously, if you want to be like David K. Proctor, write to us at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. phantomzonecast@gmail.com. I know we're running along, so I'm going to try and hurry through this. Twitter, at phantomzonecast on Twitter. Facebook, The Phantom Zone Podcast. And Instagram, at Phantom Zone Podcast. And Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
So you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. I do a bunch of other podcasts, but we're reaching an hour and a half, so I'm just going to skip.
Yeah.
TJ, right. How about you? Nick, how about you?
Well, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible. As Charles, thankfully, you mentioned, I do host a whiskey and cigarettes show.
It's all my fault. I blame myself.
No, do not blame yourself.
I'm long-winded. I admit it.
No, you are poignant, sir. That said, when it comes to me, as Charles was saying, I am the host of the Whiskey and Cigarettes Show. That's a country music radio show. We play everything country from Alabama to Zac Brown. To find out all about that, you can go to our website. That's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. And we also host the Happiness in Darkness show, the superhero movie podcast. For more information about that, you can find us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/happiness-in-darkness.
Great podcast. I really recommend it. I've been on it. Charles has been on a couple of times. It's a great podcast.
I definitely recommend 2 episodes of Happiness in Darkness. They're not my episodes, but I recommend 2 other ones.
Charles, how about you? Where can they find your fine work?
All right, really quickly, because I know we're trying to rush this. Of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and check out my blog at Geeky Things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I have talk about all our podcasts, for Southgate Media, including that Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that David K. Proctor was kind enough to mention. Please check those out because we have a lot of fun, and if you like us here, check those out. Next time on the Fandom Zone, as we wait for Crisis Parts 4 and 5 to air on January 14th, 2020. With Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow in a 2-part, 2-hour special. Come back for Watchmen episode 8 for, episode 175, 173 of the Phantom Zone podcast with God Walks into a Bar.
Yeah, Charles and I are going bar hopping.
We are, but or a bar hopping.
A bar, yes.
Because if you've been watching Watchmen, you know that title kind of has a double meaning.
Absolutely.
It says that God walks into a bar, not
Amen.
A bar.
Yes.
So we'll find out. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. I know we ran long, but
Charles,
this is a special occasion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to take a minute. You did so much heavy lifting on this. Charles organized it. He kept us on track, and there's
a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, Nick and I just get the fun part of showing up and getting to share fun stories. Did a lot of hard work. Thank you, Charles. I really appreciate it.
You're always welcome. Yes. I just do I just sit back and let you guys talk. That's the easy thing.
Yeah.
I got it easy, right? I do the easy job. All right. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. We had a ball.
Nick, I appreciate it.
You're always welcome. Obviously, hopefully we can get you back for Crisis Part 2 or second, as we talk Crisis Parts 4 and 5 in January. Because you were obviously brilliant.
It's going to be, thank you so much, but it's going to be impossible for you guys to get rid of me. I'm sorry to say, but that's just how it is.
Nothing wrong with that.
I don't think we have a problem with that. No,
absolutely.
Joking aside, thank you guys so much. And I also want to echo to everybody listening out there, please, please, please check out Charles Skaggs and Jesse Jackson on the amazing podcast they do, because they are so dedicated, they are passionate about what they do, and they do podcasts the way they're supposed to be done. They are done for the fans, by the fans. So please, people, check them out because they do brilliant work.
Well, cheers, Nick. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very kind of you to say. And your check's in the mail, sir.
Absolutely.
As always. All right. Everybody, thank you again. And then come on back. We're going to talk some Watchmen right here on the Phantom Zone podcast next time. See you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Go.